The garden maze stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of tall, twisting hedges that shimmered under the late afternoon sun. Emily walked slowly, her fingers brushing the cool green leaves. Every turn seemed familiar, yet mysterious, as if the maze changed while no one was watching. She had always loved the maze. It was her escape, a place where reality blurred, and secrets could whisper through the rustling leaves. Today, however, there was a new tension in the air. A whisper, soft and fleeting, seemed to drift around her. She stopped, heart pounding, listening. The sound was so delicate, almost like a sigh. "Hello," she called, her voice trembling with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Only the gentle rustle of the leaves answered. Emily took another step, her heels sinking slightly into the soft ground. The maze was silent, yet she felt eyes on her watching, waiting. She shivered, trying to convince herself it was just her imagination. But then, she saw him. A shadow moved between the hedges ahead. Tall, broad-shouldered, and impossibly graceful, he seemed part of the maze itself, as if he had emerged from the leaves. Emily's breath caught. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his eyes gray, almost silver, locked on hers. The air between them felt electric. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said, his voice low and smooth, carrying an edge of danger that made her pulse race. I like the maze," Emily said, trying to steady herself. "It's peaceful." He smiled, a slow, knowing curl of his lips. "Peaceful?" His gaze drifted over her, lingering in a way that made her skin tingle. "I think you mean, tempting." Emily felt heat rise in her cheeks. There was something magnetic about him, something that pulled her forward even as her mind screamed caution. She took a hesitant step closer, and he mirrored her movement. The maze seemed to shrink around them, the hedges closing in, isolating them in their own secret world. A soft breeze stirred, carrying a faint scent, lavender, something earthy, intoxicating. Emily's thoughts became hazy, drawn to the mysterious man before her. He tilted his head, studying her, and for a moment, the world beyond the maze ceased to exist. "You're different," he said finally, almost a whisper, leaning closer. "Most people rush through the maze, afraid of getting lost. But you linger. You notice things." Emily swallowed hard, aware of how close he was now. She could feel his warmth, smell his cologne mingling with the scent of the garden. "I like noticing," she said softly. "It's calming." He reached out slowly, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. The touch was electric, sending shivers down her spine. "Calming," he echoed, his voice lower now, almost a growl. "Or dangerous?" Emily's heart thumped wildly. The tension between them was palpable, a magnetic pull neither could resist. She wanted to step back, yet her feet remained rooted, drawn forward by curiosity, desire, and something deeper she didn't understand. A whisper floated through the maze again, soft and secretive. Emily glanced around, half expecting someone to be hiding in the shadows. But there was only him. And the whisper seemed to come from his lips. "You like secrets, don't you?" he asked, his eyes darkening with intrigue. Emily nodded, unable to find words. He smiled again, just enough to tease, to lure, to promise something thrilling. "Then follow me," he said, and turned, slipping into a hidden path she had never noticed before. The hedges closed behind him, swallowing the path in shadow. Emily hesitated only a moment before following. Her curiosity, her desire, her need for adventure, pushed her forward. The maze had never felt more alive, more dangerous, more enticing. And she knew, deep down, that whatever waited at the end of this path would change her forever. Emily followed him cautiously, her footsteps muffled by the soft earth beneath the maze's winding paths. The hidden route was narrow, the hedges taller and denser here, blocking out most of the sunlight. Shadows danced across the ground, twisting and turning like silent watchers. Her heart raced not just from the mystery of the path, but from the presence of the man ahead of her. He walked with effortless grace, never looking back, yet she felt as if he knew she was there with every step. She wanted to speak, to ask his name, to understand why he was here, why he seemed so intimately connected to the maze itself. But words felt fragile, inadequate, lost in the tension that clung to the air. Finally, the path opened into a small clearing. A fountain stood at the center, its water shimmering like liquid crystal. The sunlight caught the spray, scattering tiny rainbows across the ground. Emily stopped, awestruck, and he turned to face her. "This," he said softly, gesturing to the fountain, "is my favorite place in the maze. Few ever find it." Emily's gaze swept over the clearing. It felt secluded, private, almost secretive, like a hidden world waiting only for those brave enough to seek it. "It's beautiful," she whispered, taking a step closer. He smiled, but it wasn't a casual smile. It was slow, deliberate, a smile that carried promise and a faint challenge. "Not everyone deserves beauty like this," he said, his eyes locking on hers. "But perhaps, you do." Emily felt heat rise in her cheeks. There was something in his gaze intense, magnetic that made her stomach flutter. She couldn't look away, couldn't move, caught in the pull of his presence. A soft breeze stirred, carrying the faint scent of roses and the earthy aroma of the maze itself. He stepped closer, closing the space between them. Emily's breath hitched, aware of the tension, of the unspoken invitation hanging in the air. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. You appeared out of nowhere." He tilted his head, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Perhaps I was waiting for someone who could appreciate this place as much as I do. Someone who isn't afraid to wander, to get lost." Emily swallowed hard, feeling a strange thrill at his words. "And you weren't afraid of me." "I'm never afraid," he murmured, stepping even closer. "But I do enjoy surprises." Her heart raced as she realized how close he was now. She could feel his warmth, smell the faint scent of him like fresh rain and something musky, compelling. Every instinct in her body screamed both caution and surrender. He reached out, brushing a leaf from the edge of her hair, his fingers lingering on her cheek. Emily's breath caught. The touch was electric, tender yet charged with something deeper, something she couldn't name but immediately recognized. "Emily," he said softly, his voice carrying an intimacy that made her pulse quicken. "You shouldn't be afraid of the maze, or of me." She wanted to speak, to tell him how drawn she felt, how dangerous it was to feel so much for someone she had just met. But the words lodged in her throat. All she could do was stand there, caught in the spell of his gaze, feeling the pull between them like a magnetic force she could neither resist nor escape. He smiled again, a slow, knowing curl of lips that sent shivers down her spine. "There's more to this maze than paths and hedges," he whispered, leaning just slightly closer, so close that she could feel the warmth of his breath. "It holds secrets, and those who listen carefully, find more than they expected." Emily's heart pounded. She realized that she wanted to find those secrets with him, wanted to follow wherever this hidden path might lead, even if it was dangerous. The maze no longer felt like just a place, it was a promise, a trap, a thrill all at once. For a moment, the world beyond the hedges disappeared. The fountain sparkled between them, the soft rustling of leaves whispered around them, and the distance between curiosity and desire seemed impossibly small. And Emily knew, deep down, that this encounter was only the beginning. The maze had more to show, and the man before her held the key to its secrets, and to the whisper that now seemed to echo in her own heartbeat. Emily's feet moved almost on their own, following him deeper into the maze. The hedges rose taller now, shadows stretching long across the winding paths. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, intoxicating and sweet, like a secret the garden itself was keeping. Every step felt deliberate, every turn charged with tension. He paused suddenly, turning to face her. "Most people get lost here," he said, his gray eyes watching her carefully. "But you seem to belong." Emily's pulse quickened. "Belong," she repeated, unsure if it was a question or a statement. "Yes," he murmured, stepping closer. "Not everyone is drawn to the heart of the maze. You are different." She felt her cheeks warm. His gaze was magnetic, pulling at her in ways she hadn't expected. The tension between them was sharp, almost painful, yet thrilling. She wanted to step closer, to reach out, yet the maze around them seemed to tighten, enclosing them in their own private world. He reached out, gently brushing her arm as he passed. The touch was fleeting, but it ignited a spark that raced through her entire body. Emily swallowed hard, her breath catching in her throat. There was an intensity in his presence that made her feel alive and vulnerable at the same time. "I've walked these paths for years," he said softly, voice low and smooth, "but I've never met anyone who listens to the maze." Emily frowned slightly. "Listens?" "Yes," he replied, stepping even closer, his eyes fixed on hers. "The maze has a voice. Its secrets, its whispers, only those who pay attention can hear them. And you hear them." Emily's heart thumped wildly. There was something about the way he looked at her, like he saw her completely, like he could see her soul as clearly as her face. She wanted to speak, to tell him she felt the same pull, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she took a tentative step forward. He mirrored her movement, closing the distance. The world beyond the maze faded entirely. The fountain's sparkling water, the soft rustle of leaves, the sunlight filtering through the tall hedges, they all seemed to exist only for them, a stage set for this moment. "You're not like anyone I've ever met," he said, voice low and almost reverent. "And I don't want to let this moment slip away." Emily's breath hitched. Every nerve in her body screamed both caution and desire. She wanted to run, yet every instinct drew her closer. Her fingers itched to touch him, to feel the warmth that radiated from him, to be closer than was safe or sensible. He tilted his head, a slow, teasing smile curling on his lips. "You feel it too, don't you?" he whispered. The pull, the tension, the whisper in the air. Emily nodded, unable to speak. Her heart was pounding, her pulse racing, and yet a strange calm settled over her as well. It was as if the maze itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. He leaned in slightly, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath. "This maze," he murmured, "has a way of revealing truths, hidden desires, things people don't usually admit to anyone." Emily's stomach tightened. She knew he was speaking to her, not just to her ears, but to her heart. There was something thrilling, almost dangerous, in the way he drew near, in the way his gaze held hers with such intensity. "Then, what do you see?" she whispered, barely audible. His eyes softened, and for a moment, the teasing light in them faded, replaced by something raw and sincere. "I see someone brave," he said, his hand hovering just inches from hers. "Someone who isn't afraid of curiosity, someone who's alive to the possibilities the world holds, even the hidden ones." Emily's pulse raced. She felt an unspoken invitation, a challenge, and a promise all at once. She wanted to reach for him, to close the final inches that separated them, to step fully into the unknown. And as she lifted her hands slightly, unsure if she would touch him or step back, the breeze whispered through the maze again, carrying the faintest hint of a secret. It was a whisper meant only for them, urging her forward, tempting her to surrender to the moment. The garden maze had secrets. The man before her had secrets. And Emily knew, with a thrilling certainty, that following him further would uncover both. Her hand moved forward, drawn by curiosity, desire, and something far deeper than she had expected. The maze waited. Emily's fingers brushed his hand, and a shiver ran through her body. The touch was electric, warm, tentative, yet charged with unspoken tension. He didn't pull away. Instead, his fingers intertwined with hers naturally, as if they had always belonged together. The maze around them seemed to hold its breath, the rustling leaves silent, as if waiting to see what would happen next. He led her slowly down a narrow path, the hedges pressing close on either side, creating a sense of intimacy that was almost dizzying. Every step she took felt like stepping further into a dream, one she didn't want to wake from. The sunlight filtered through the top of the hedges, casting patterns that danced across their faces, and Emily felt a strange, almost magical energy between them. "You trust me," he said softly, glancing down at their hands. "Even when you don't know me." Emily swallowed hard. I don't know why," she admitted. "But there's something about you, something about this place, it feels right." His smile was slow, teasing, but there was a softness in it that made her heart flutter. The maze has a way of showing people what they need, or what they fear to admit. Emily's breath hitched. His words felt personal, like he was speaking directly to the thoughts she had kept hidden even from herself. "And what does it show you?" she asked quietly, curiosity and nervousness tangled together. He stopped and turned to face her fully, the space between them charged with tension. "It shows me, who dares to see beyond the surface," he said, his gray eyes locking with hers. "Who can face curiosity without fear? Who can feel, without hesitation?" Emily's heart pounded. She felt a mixture of excitement and fear, desire and caution. She wanted to step closer, to close the distance between them, yet part of her hesitated, unsure how far she should allow herself to be drawn in. You're different," he murmured, leaning in slightly, so that the faintest warmth of his breath brushed her cheek. "Most people rush through the maze. You linger. You feel." Her chest tightened, her pulse racing. There was something intoxicating about the way he spoke, the way he looked at her, the way he made her feel like the only person in the world. She wanted to speak, to tell him everything, but the words seemed trapped in her throat. Instead, she stepped closer, just a little, letting the space between them shrink. He mirrored her movement effortlessly, his presence enveloping her, drawing her in like a current she couldn't resist. The faint whisper of wind rustled through the hedges, carrying the scent of flowers and damp earth. It felt like a secret shared only between them. Emily's fingers tightened around his, and he squeezed gently in response, a silent promise passing between them. "You don't need to be afraid," he said softly. "Not here. Not now." Emily closed her eyes briefly, letting the words sink in. There was something comforting in his voice, something grounding, even amidst the heady thrill of the maze and the tension that pulsed between them. She wanted to trust him, to surrender to the moment fully, yet a small part of her hesitated, reminding her that this was new, uncertain, and fragile. He noticed her hesitation and smiled gently. "It's okay," he said, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to rush. The maze, and I, will wait." Emily's heart swelled. There was something tender in his patience, something that made her feel seen, understood, and desired all at once. She felt a surge of courage, stepping even closer, letting herself be drawn into the intimacy of the moment. The clearing they had reached earlier seemed far behind them now, replaced by narrow paths that twisted and turned, hiding them further within the maze's heart. Emily realized that she didn't care about the path ahead, didn't care about the twists or turns. All she wanted was to stay here, in this suspended moment with him, feeling the pull, the whisper, the tension that neither time nor distance could diminish. He leaned closer, so that their foreheads almost touched, and Emily could feel the warmth radiating from him. The maze had secrets, the garden had whispers, and she realized that the man before her was now one of its most compelling mysteries. And for the first time, Emily didn't feel afraid of getting lost. The maze seemed alive now, every rustle of leaves and every whisper of wind echoing their closeness. Emily felt a thrill run through her body as they walked side by side, their fingers still loosely intertwined. The man beside her moved with a quiet confidence, as if he had known these hidden paths all his life. Each step felt like a journey deeper into both the maze and the magnetic pull between them. "You've never seemed afraid," he said softly, glancing at her with that intense gray gaze. "Most people hesitate in the maze, unsure of the turns, the paths, the secrets it hides." Emily's chest rose and fell quickly. "Maybe I just trust it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And maybe I trust you." He stopped suddenly, and she almost collided with him. His eyes studied her face, searching, as if trying to read the unspoken thoughts in her heart. "Trust isn't given easily," he said. "Not in a place like this. But I feel it from you." Emily felt warmth spread through her, a heady mixture of exhilaration and nervousness. Her pulse quickened, each heartbeat loud in her ears. She realized that the maze itself had become a reflection of her emotions, twisting, unpredictable, yet beautiful in its complexity. He reached out again, this time brushing his thumb lightly over the back of her hand. The touch was soft, deliberate, and it sent a shiver up her spine. Emily's breath caught. She wanted to lean into him, to close the space between them, yet the thrill of anticipation held her just slightly back. "The maze," he murmured, his voice low and intimate, "has a way of revealing things people don't expect. Secrets, desires, hidden parts of themselves. And you're not afraid to see them." Emily swallowed hard, her heart pounding. I want to know," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I want to understand the maze, and you." A slow smile spread across his lips, and he took her other hand, holding both gently. "Then let it guide you," he said. "Let it show you what's been waiting all along, if you dare to follow." They moved again, deeper into the heart of the maze. The hedges rose around them, taller, denser, enclosing them in shadows that danced with the fading light. Every step heightened the tension, a delicate balance between excitement and caution. Emily could feel the heat of his body near hers, the subtle brush of his arm as they passed through narrow paths. "You're not just curious," he said softly, leaning slightly closer so that his words brushed her ear. "You're brave. And that is rare." Emily felt her cheeks flush. She wanted to speak, to tell him how drawn she felt, how every glance, every touch, every whispered word made her pulse race. But the words refused to form. Instead, she let herself lean slightly toward him, letting the warmth of his presence fill the space between them. He noticed, and his gray eyes darkened with something she couldn't name: intensity, longing, something deeper. "Close your eyes," he whispered. Her breath hitched, uncertainty and curiosity warring inside her. But she did as he asked, and the world transformed. The maze seemed to fade, replaced by the sound of gentle water trickling nearby and the soft rustle of leaves brushing together. She felt his hand slide to hers, fingers entwining tighter, anchoring her in the moment. "Trust the maze," he murmured, voice low and compelling. "Trust me." Emily's heart pounded, and in that instant, all hesitation fell away. The tension between them intensified, charged with anticipation and unspoken desire. She realized that the maze had always been more than just a collection of paths. It was a place where secrets could be revealed, where connections could be forged, and where hearts could be drawn together in ways the outside world could never understand. The man leaned just slightly closer, so that she could feel his warmth and the faintest brush of his breath against her cheek. Emily's body tingled, caught between thrill and hesitation, and she realized that she had never felt anything so intoxicating before. The maze whispered around them, a soft chorus of leaves and shadows, urging them forward. Emily's eyes fluttered open, and she found herself looking into his, gray meeting her own, a silent promise hanging in the space between them. And in that moment, she knew, nothing in the maze or in her heart would ever be the same again. The maze grew quieter as they ventured deeper, the fading sunlight casting long, golden shadows across the twisting paths. Emily felt her heart pounding, every nerve alive, each step a mixture of anticipation and thrill. The man beside her moved with the same effortless grace, his presence magnetic, drawing her closer even without words. "You feel it too, don't you?" he asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "The maze, the tension, the pull." Emily's breath caught. "Yes," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I can't explain it, but I feel it." He smiled, a slow, teasing curl of lips that made her pulse race. "Good," he said. "Because the maze only gives itself fully to those who feel it completely." They walked in silence for a few moments, the only sounds the soft rustling of leaves and the distant trickle of water. Emily's fingers brushed his again, and he took her hand more firmly this time, intertwining their fingers. The warmth of his touch sent shivers through her, and she realized that every instinct in her body was drawn to him. "You're different," he murmured, glancing at her with intensity. "Not many people would follow me this far. Most would turn back. But you don't just follow. You explore. You seek. You listen." Emily felt her cheeks warm. I want to understand," she whispered. "The maze, and you." He stopped suddenly, turning to face her fully. The narrow path enclosed them, the hedges rising tall and close, isolating them from the outside world. Emily's breath hitched as she noticed how close they were, how the space between them seemed charged with electricity. "You already understand more than you think," he said softly, his gray eyes locking on hers. You feel the maze, you feel me, and that is rare. A soft breeze stirred, carrying the scent of flowers and damp earth. Emily shivered, not from the chill, but from the magnetic intensity that seemed to hum between them. She wanted to step closer, to close the remaining distance, yet part of her hesitated, savoring the tension, the thrill of anticipation. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered, tracing the line of her jaw with careful intimacy. Emily's breath caught, and her pulse raced. The moment was suspended, delicate and electric, as if the maze itself were holding its breath. "Close your eyes," he whispered, and Emily obeyed, her heartbeat echoing loudly in her chest. The world transformed. The maze disappeared, replaced by the sound of soft water, the rustle of leaves, and the warmth of his presence. "You trust me?" he asked, his hand sliding over hers, guiding her gently. "Yes," she breathed, surrendering to the moment. Every fear, every doubt, seemed to melt away. The pull between them was irresistible, and the maze had become a haven for everything she had felt but never admitted to herself or anyone else. He leaned just slightly closer, so that she could feel the warmth of his breath against her cheek. Emily felt her body tingle, caught between thrill and hesitation. The maze whispered around them, the secrets it held now entwined with the magnetic connection she felt with him. "You've awakened something in me," he murmured, his voice low and intense. "Something I didn't know could be stirred so easily, by someone I barely know." Emily's eyes fluttered open, meeting his gaze. She saw sincerity there, intensity, and something far deeper than desire, a connection that went beyond words. "And you've awakened something in me," she admitted softly, her voice barely audible. "Something I didn't know existed, until now." The silence that followed was heavy with meaning, charged with anticipation. The maze seemed to pulse around them, guiding them forward, urging them to explore not only its hidden paths but the depths of their own emotions. He smiled, brushing his thumb lightly over her hand. "Then let's see where it leads," he whispered. Emily felt a thrill of excitement and courage. The maze was no longer just a garden labyrinth, it was a place where boundaries dissolved, where desire and curiosity intertwined, and where she could finally embrace the pull she felt toward him. And in that moment, she knew the end of the maze didn't matter. What mattered was this connection, this tension, this thrilling dance between them. The garden whispered its secrets, and Emily was ready to listen. The maze opened suddenly into a wide, sunlit clearing, its center dominated by a circular stone fountain. Water glittered in the late afternoon light, scattering tiny rainbows across the ground. Emily's heart raced as she stepped forward, hands still entwined with his. The garden seemed alive, every sound, the rustling leaves, the distant bird calls, intensified by the charged energy between them. He stopped at the fountain's edge and turned to face her fully. "We've reached the heart," he said softly. "The maze always leads to the heart, for those who are brave enough to follow its whispers." Emily's breath caught. She looked at him, at the intensity in his gray eyes, the gentle curve of his lips, the warmth radiating from his presence. In that moment, the maze felt like a living thing, reflecting their connection, their curiosity, and the tension that had grown between them with every step. "You guided me here," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of awe and longing. "Was it intentional?" He smiled, a slow, knowing smile that made her pulse race. "Maybe," he said, leaning closer so that his hand brushed hers over the fountain's stone edge. "Or maybe the maze knew we needed to meet, here, in the heart, where the secrets are safest." Emily felt a shiver run through her. There was something magical about this place, something that made everything, the tension, the whispers, the closeness, feel inevitable. She wanted to step closer, to close the final distance, but the thrill of anticipation held her in suspended delight. He tilted his head slightly, studying her face, and Emily realized she had never felt so seen. So understood. "The maze isn't just paths and hedges," he murmured. "It's a reflection of what we carry inside: curiosity, courage, desire, and sometimes, fear." I feel all of that," Emily admitted softly, her eyes never leaving his. "And I can't explain why, but I feel safe with you, even though I barely know you." He reached out slowly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered, tracing the line of her jaw with gentle precision. Emily's breath hitched, her pulse quickening. The world beyond the maze no longer mattered, it was just the two of them, surrounded by secrets and the scent of flowers, bathed in golden light. "Then trust it," he whispered, his voice low and irresistible. "Trust this moment, us." Emily closed her eyes, letting herself surrender to the pull between them. She felt the warmth of his hand around hers, the gentle brush of his breath, the magnetic energy drawing her in. Every hesitation melted away, replaced by the exhilarating certainty that this connection, unexpected, intense, and thrilling, was real. He leaned closer, and Emily felt the soft pressure of his forehead against hers. Her heart pounded wildly, yet there was a calm in the storm of her emotions, a calm that came from finally allowing herself to feel, to be present, to embrace the moment fully. "You've changed the maze for me," he murmured, eyes closed, as if confessing a truth meant only for her. "It's no longer just paths and whispers. It's alive, because of you." Emily's breath hitched again, overwhelmed by the intensity, the intimacy, the undeniable pull between them. "And you've changed me," she whispered back. "You've awakened something I didn't even know was there." The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the clearing, and the fountain sparkled like liquid light. Emily opened her eyes and looked at him. The hesitation, the fear, the uncertainty, they all vanished in the warmth of his gaze. He smiled softly, a quiet, sincere smile that made her knees weak. "The maze always rewards courage," he said, his hand still holding hers gently. "And you've been brave from the very start." Emily felt her chest swell with emotion, a mixture of relief, joy, and longing. She stepped closer, closing the final distance, until their hands were fully entwined and their bodies only inches apart. The tension that had built over the twists and turns of the maze finally found release in the shared warmth between them. The garden whispered around them, a soft chorus of leaves and shadows, as if celebrating their connection. Emily realized that the maze had not only guided her through its paths but also through her own heart, revealing desires and courage she hadn't known she possessed. He leaned in, and this time there was no hesitation, just the magnetic pull, the intimate closeness, the promise of everything the maze had been building toward. Emily met him halfway, and for a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. The maze, with all its secrets, twists, and whispers, had led them here. And in its heart, they found something far more extraordinary than they had ever imagined: each other. The whispers of the garden faded into the background, leaving only the rhythm of their hearts and the undeniable spark that had brought them together. And Emily knew, as she held him close, that this was only the beginning.